When the Philippine Army brought up the acquisition of shore-based missile system project in 2013, the plan was to go with IMI's coastal and island defense system, which consists of fixed and mobile firing stations and support systems like the Lynx MLRS system, firing IMI's family of guided rockets held by the extra guided rocket with a maximum effective range of 150 kilometers. The project was meant for the Philippine Army to hit naval and land targets from the shore. Being able to hit land targets, it was then obvious that it can also be used beyond naval applications, like a precision artillery system for long-range engagements. The compatibility to use other guided rocket munitions from IMI like the Aquila rocket, as well as the Delilah short-range cruise missile made it an obvious choice for any land attack application. But the Philippine Army, through its then commanding General Lieutenant General Hernando Iraibiri, cancelled the SBMS project in 2015 in favor of using the funds to acquire other assets that will be useful for internal security operations. Thus, with the SBMS gone, the Philippine Army tried to return it in the procurement list as the Land-Based Missile System (LBMS) acquisition project in 2016 under the administration of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. During the start of his term, President Duterte's emphasis was more on the fight against terrorist groups like the New People's Army (NPA), thus focus of the AFP shifted back to internal security rather than external defense. The LBMS was among those originally included in then 650+ billion pesos Horizon 2 phase proposal to President Duterte. Back then, the new technical working group was re-looking at the SBMS project and saw the possibility of reusing IMI's offer for a system that can be used for both land and naval targets. IMI quickly revised their offering, now using the Lynx MLRS, Extra and Aquila guided rockets, but now more intended against land targets, with secondary use against sea targets. MaxDefense was able to get hold of some of the documents for the Philippine Army LBMS, which showed its purpose was focused on precision strikes in highly populated areas like specific buildings within an urban setting, or against hideout camps in the jungle. Aside from the IMI proposal, the Philippine Army was also looking at other proposals made to them, which includes the Brahmos Supersonic missile system, which was offered to the AFP as early as 2016, as well as other land-based missile and rocket artillery systems. Sadly, when President Duterte made the in-principle approval of the Horizon 2 phase, the LBMS was not among those in the list due to cuts in the original proposal resulted to LBMS being among those removed. But like all other projects removed from the list, the LBMS was placed in the so-called potential second list of Horizon 2 shopping list. With Horizon 2 already on its way, the Department of National Defense (DND) has asked the armed forces of the Philippines to look at formulating a shopping list under the second list of Horizon 2, which they will try to process if additional or extra funds are available on top of the PHP 300 billion Horizon 2 phase priority projects approved by PRE. Duterte in June 2018. During the visit of PRE. Duterte to India in 2018, the AFP has already been looking at the Brahmos as a possible acquisition for land-based anti-ship missile batteries as it started formulating its anti-access area denial A2AD strategy. PRE. Duterte also stressed to the DND that he wanted to have an acquisition from the Indians as a gesture of friendship under his so-called independent foreign policy drive. Among those selected as a project most suitable to award under a government-to-government G2G deal with India is the Brahmos Supersonic Anti-Ship Missile as a land-based system. Surprisingly, both the Philippine Army and Philippine Navy saw purpose of having the Brahmos missile into the requirements. Thus, two projects were born to fulfill an overlapping requirement. The Philippine Army reused the Land-Based Missile System (LBMS) project, while the Philippine Navy called theirs the Shore-Based Anti-Ship Missile System (SBASMS) project. When the Philippine Army cancelled the SBMS acquisition project in 2015, the most affected by the decision was not the Philippine Army, but actually the Philippine Navy. They believed that such system would help defend the country against ships and naval targets, and can also be used against an amphibious assault force against Philippine islands or territories. With the SBMS gone, the Philippine Navy believed that the marine forces in the Calayan Island group becomes vulnerable, and the PN's ability to fight foreign warships becomes even more difficult. Should the PN be defeated in the high seas, no other defense capability is available until the enemy forces land in Philippine shores and be met by the Philippine Army. The Philippine Navy decided that any anti-ship A2AD capability should actually be under the control. This will allow them to coordinate its use with the naval and marine forces in defense against enemy ships or amphibious forces. Meanwhile, the Philippine Army still believed that an anti-ship missile system is relevant to the requirements since these are based on land, which means falling into the control of land forces like the Philippine Army. Also, the PA believed that it can also be used against land targets including enemy forces within Philippine soil, and also against enemy targets outside its own boundaries, creating an offensive deterrence capability. MaxDefense believes that the focus is more on hitting Chinese or foreign facilities and targets in the Spratly Islands, while also being able to be used to fire against naval warships under the A2AD requirement. Surprisingly, Pre. Duterte gave an in-principle approval for the acquisition of both the Philippine Army's LBMS and the Philippine Navy's SBASMS during the Joint Command Conference held on May 2019, with a combined budget for both exceeding PHP 30 billion. Both projects will be acquired under the G2G process with the Indian government. So how did the Philippine Army come up with going for India's Brahmos missile system, when there are several other countries and companies offering similar systems? Apparently the main requirement of the Philippine Army was for the missile to be supersonic in flight. Western examples like the RBS-15, Naval Strike, and others are subsonic missiles, meaning they only fly below the speed of sound towards the target. Meanwhile the Brahmos is supersonic, which means it flies over twice the speed of sound. While Russia also have supersonic land-based missile systems, it appears that Malacanang itself was more interested in giving the land-based missile projects to India, while Russia will be able to get a contract with the DND for something else like helicopters. Also, the DND and the Philippine Army are also wary of possible effects of buying kinetic Russian weapons, like CAATSA sanctions, and they believe going to India for a similar product, Brahmos, was developed using Russian technology. After all, it would be safer to go with India's product. According to Brahmos Aerospace, the Brahmos supersonic cruise missile features Indian propulsion system, airframe, power supply and other major indigenous components successfully test-fired from ITR Chandipur in Odisha, India. It was developed as a joint venture between the Indian Defence Research and Development Organization (DRDO) and Russia's Federal State Unitary Enterprise NPO Mashinostroyenia (NPOM) under the Brahmos Aerospace via an intergovernment agreement. The missiles are made by the Indian Ordnance Factories. The surface-launched variant of the missile has the following attributes: a mass of 3,000 kilograms, 6,600 pounds, a length of 8.4 meters, 28 feet, a diameter 0.6 meters, 2 feet, and a warhead 200 to 300 kilograms, 440 to 660 pounds, using conventional and semi-armor piercing. A nuclear-tipped option is available but will only be for Indian use. With its guidance system that has mid-course guidance by INS, terminal guidance by active radar homing and GPS, GLONASS, Gagan satellite guidance. This enables the missile to achieve an accuracy of 1 meter circular error probable. The missile has two engines. A first stage using solid fuel rocket booster, and a second stage using liquid-fueled ramjet allowing supersonic flight. Range, 500 kilometers, 310 miles or 270 nautical miles, although it would probably reduced on the Philippine or export variant to just 290 kilometers. Flight ceiling, 15 kilometers, 49,000 feet maximum, during cruise phase. Flight altitude, sea skimming as low as 3 meters, which happens during the final approach to the target terminal phase. With the Philippine Army fielding land-based anti-ship missile systems, it will have capability to create area access, area denial A2AD, zones where enemy or aggressor naval assets and even civilian shipping would have to be careful in using for access. This may include areas along the northern corridor between Formosa, Taiwan, and Luzon Islands, areas around Scarborough, Panatag Shoal, and areas along the Calayan Island Group, Spratly Islands, as well as the southern corridors with the boundaries with Sabah and Indonesia. While having 2 mobile batteries seems not enough, take note that this is just the start for the Philippine Army. In conjunction to the armed forces of the Philippines' plan to have a network-centric system connecting all major surveillance and fighting assets of the country to have a greater common picture, the PA's Brahmos-based LBMS would be working together with other kinetic assets like missile-armed warships and combat aircraft, and other land-based systems from other branch services. We must consider that the Philippine Army may acquire additional batteries, or even added capabilities and upgrades to the Brahmos land-based surface-to-surface missile system as part of the Horizon 3 phase of the revised AFP Modernization program. Among possibilities may include increasing the number of mobile autonomous launchers per battery, from 3 to 4, adding more batteries, or even including its own detection system in addition to the planned network where the system will be connected in. Then Brahmos Aerospace is also developing more advanced versions of the missile, which may include longer range capability, better countermeasures, or even higher speed, for example hypersonic. That will all be dependent on the next set of military and political leaders of the country, and its ability to provide funds and political will to such program.